Alright, what's going on, everybody? Hope you all are doing good. This is another video. It's going to be a little bit different this time. This is a Black Widow build. Actually, she is my main character within the game, even though I do post a lot of Kate Bishop build. But let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, this build has a few pieces that you are definitely going to need, and there are a few interchangeable pieces. So first, let's go ahead and cover a few of the pieces that you are definitely going to need for this build to work. One of them is this red room corset, and you get this from playing the elite vaults. Now the reason why you're going to want to have this piece is because you're going to be invisible for most of the time, and the perks that are on this piece are too valuable to pass up. So one of the perks where you get the extra 20% willpower regeneration when invisibility is active, it works out very, very well. And not only that, but you get an extra 0.3 of your max willpower when dealing any type of damage. Now that doesn't seem like much, but that 20% willpower regeneration stacks with that 0.3% max willpower regeneration when dealing any type of damage. So depending on what your willpower recovery effectiveness is, which mine is at a 204%, you can do 2 or 3 attacks. Let's say you're at half of your health. You can do 2, 3, maybe 4 attacks, and you can fully recover your health if you have this piece on right here. Now, not only that, but it does come with this extra 3.2 increased regeneration speed of heroic energy while you are overcharged. And when you're overcharged, that just means your intrinsic meter is full. So this vest is very, very good to have. The next piece that you're going to want to have is the ISO 8 of Cosmic Affinity. If you can get this to have a heroic recharge on it, then that would definitely suffice. And obviously you get the reactive cosmic surge, or there's a chance that you get a reactive cosmic surge whenever you take damage, and whenever you're dealing damage while this cosmic ISO surge is active, you will get heroic and willpower energy. Now the reason why this is important, for one, you get your willpower and heroics back, but it meshes with this vest right here. So whenever you are invisible and this reactive cosmic surge kicks in, you're going to get an extra 20% willpower regeneration because you have this extra 20% willpower regeneration whenever you are invisible. Now the next piece that you're going to want to have is the vibranium payload gloves, and there's a chance that critical attacks will inflict that vibranium payload on the enemy target. And mine just so happened to roll with this stealth boon, which gives me an extra 15% crit chance when invisibility is active. Now the reason why this piece is so important is because it's a positive status, and Black Widow has a negative status with her batons, and not only with her batons, but with her assault heroic as well. So this works out very, very well, and is very useful against a boss or any other type of enemy, especially if you can get a lot of shots in a rapid succession. Now this is where it gets a little tricky. So for me, I was able to get this damage buff on the range slot. Now it's a faultless buff, but it procs off of melee critical attacks, and that helps out, and the might and valor stat help as well. Now if you don't have this, you can always go for a piece like this right here, anything with a proficient buff. So you can always go for that, but you would have to proc the damage buff from doing a range power attack. But if you could get your hands on this one right here, especially if it comes with very good stats like might and valor, get it. But if you don't have this, you always can go with a proficient buff on your range slot. Now for the last slot, the slot 4, I'm wearing this Infiltrator's belt, and it's more so about the perks because I'm pretty sure that a few of these perks can roll with different types of gear. And one of the perks is especially useful, and that's the Berserker Spark. 16 consecutive attacks without taking any damage will grant a heroic charge burst. Now this is very, very good simply because you get the heroic charge burst, and if you land 16 attacks without taking any type of damage, your intrinsic meter will be full. Now once your intrinsic meter is full, this third perk will kick in right here, where you get the extra 3.2 regeneration speed of heroic energy while overcharged, which will allow you to recover your heroics even faster. So this 16 attacks in a rapid succession is very good. And it also has the heroic support rate of an extra 15.8% on it, and the extra 3.2 heroic recharge rate when invisibility is active. Now, a few perks that you may want to look out for with Black Widow within the artifact slot is obviously the ISO Cosmic of Affinity, but if you're going to put on an ISO, look out for something that has the increased damage to power attack, because power attacks are some of Black Widow's most powerful attacks. Well, they call power attacks for a reason, right? But you get an extra 11% damage from power attacks. Now, you also can put on one of these where you get the extra stun damage from power attack as well. And speaking of power attacks, there are two types of power attacks that Black Widow has. There's this one right here where you throw out a grenade. That is a power attack. There's the one where you jump up in the air, like this one right here. That is a power attack. And whenever you hold the back bumper to do a power attack with the pistols, that's a power attack. And sometimes you're going to be doing a lot of power attacks with pistols, especially if you have this proficient buff on your range slot. So that may be a piece that you may, or perk that you may want to look out for. Other perks that you may want to look out for is something like this one right here, where you have an increased stun damage from signature attacks. Because if you have this piece equipped right here and your intensity is at about 60%, one signature attack can pretty much fully fill an enemy with one specific status, or fully stun an enemy, a regular sized enemy that is. Now let's go ahead and move on to the stat. Let's go ahead and cover defense first, because you can't kill anything if you're dead. For your willpower recovery effectiveness, I suggest having it at 150%, and if you get it at 200%, then that will be fine as well. And the reason why you want the willpower recovery effectiveness to be slightly high is to take advantage of perks like this one right here, where you get an extra 0.3 willpower regeneration whenever you're dealing any type of damage. Not only that, but you can spec into a skill tree where your willpower regenerates at 1% per second while you are invisible. Now my intensity is at a 60%. Now intensity is very good in two different ways. One, because it will help stun enemies, and not only will it help stun enemies, if you're playing a mission like the Omega level threat, you will take less status damage because you're consistently taking status damage, which is the sonic effect. And there are multiple enemies within the game that deal some type of status effect. So if you can get it to 60%, then that will be very viable. Your crit chance, you would like to have it at least at about a 20%, simply because it's your crit chance, and you're going to need your crit chance because it's going to boost your perk chance. And you're going to need perks like this vibranium payload to proc often, and you're going to need perks like this cosmic isolate of affinity and the reactive cosmic surge to proc as well. Now on to the skills. One thing that you may want to have is this one right here. When you are overcharged, all damage is increased by 5%. Now I do know that a few months ago this was definitely a typo, and it was actually a 12% increased damage while you are overcharged. Now some people prefer to run this one right here, where you get an extra 15% critical attack damage whenever you're overcharged, but all attacks aren't critical. And last time I checked, this was 12%, so I prefer to run this one right here. Within this section, I have two different ones equipped. I'm not going to tell you how I have two different ones equipped, just know I do. But you're going to want to have this intrinsic charge right here, where you have an extra 15% heroic recharge rate whenever your Shadow Ops meter is active. Don't run this one unless you're going for headshots. Now this skill tree right here, I would say look at your total stats and see which one is best for you. So if I didn't have 3 of them equipped, I wouldn't have this one selected, where I get an extra 15% heroic recharge rate when overcharged, simply because my heroic recharge rates are very, very high. I would probably have this one selected right here. So this skill tree is all about what you already have within your stats. So if you don't have enough willpower, then maybe spec into this one right here. If you don't have enough heroic recharge rate, then spec into this one right here. For the grenades, always have it on this one right here, where you have the hazard grenades. It definitely deals more status damage to enemies, and it deals status build up a lot faster than these other two. For the type of grenade, it all depends on whatever one you want to have. One thing I will say is that cryo grenades are very, very useful in the OLT because it stops the boss. And this one right here, whichever one you want to have on, doesn't really matter. I would not put it on reload speed, because you can reload by clicking left and right on the D-pad. Now in this section, I usually have it clicked to this one, where you have an extra range attack damage while invisible. And the reason why I have this one selected for the most part is because I'm lacking in range damage. I only have 55 precision, so in order for me to make up for it, I add precision on this part right here. Now in this section right here, I have 2 of them selected, and I'm not going to tell you how I have 2 of them selected, but it all depends on what you don't have in your build. Again, if you don't have heroic recharge on your build, or a lot of it, then you may want to have this middle one highlighted. One thing I may shy away from is having this extended duration of Veil of Shadows. The reason why I would shy away from it is because whenever you defeat an enemy, it will extend your Veil of Shadows duration by 1.2 seconds. And for this section right here, I always have it on the critical damage option, where you get an extra 15% crit damage whenever invisibility is active. Now the reason why I have this selected is because most of the time I will have a damage buff active, and if you have a damage buff, you know that your damage buff automatically boosts your crit chance. So typically whenever I'm invisible, my crit chance is actually at, I think, at 107%, so there's no point of me having this one right here active. And for this section right here, have it on heroic orbs, and you can go back and forth between this section. I wouldn't have it on this one right here unless you're going for headshots. Now I do have it on this extra stun damage. Sometimes I go back and forth and I put it on this range attack, but it's all about what you don't have already. Now for this section, this one actually is very important. I have it on the melee charge because light and heavy attacks boost the energy of all heroic meters by 5%, and if you have this selected, it's pretty much like you're in a Tachyon Rift, because your heroics will consistently be recharging as long as you are attacking. Now for this section right here, I would not run the shadow gifts, even though they do have a 5% chance at dropping heroic orbs. If you have one of these 2 sections highlighted, you will definitely deal more damage or have a lot more crit chance. So I would not run this one, because for the most part, you won't even need those orbs. Obviously you want your teammates to have a higher crit chance whenever you are invisible, so you want to have this one selected. Now if you're playing solo by yourself and you don't care, or you don't care about your teammates, then feel free to change up the selection. For your assault heroic, this one's pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie, but I like running this taser dart simply because it has the shock status effect, and I'm running vibranium payloads on my gloves. Now this one right here, this actually does not do shock status, so just keep that in mind. Now whenever I am in my ultimate, I like to have this one activated right here, where you have the 35% increased damage from staff attacks while overcharge and power surge ability is active. Now it's pretty easy to get overcharge whenever your power surge is active, and that's why I like running this one. Now you can have this one right here, where you have an increased damage for Widow's Bite whenever power surge is active, and it's very, very useful against a boss. Now I changed this section depending on how I'm feeling. Now this one gives an extra 4-second duration of the power surge, but personally speaking, I really don't like power surge. For one, whenever you're in the power surge, the only type of status that can be applied are statuses on light and heavy combo finishers, and payloads can't be applied whenever you're in the ultimate. So that's one reason why I don't really like to have this one selected. So sometimes I like to get this extra stun damage. Now if you are lacking in defense, you may want to have this one right here, because it's going to give you damage resistance. And that's pretty much it, everybody. Really hope you enjoyed the video. I do look forward to using Black Widow a good bit more, because I just started playing with her a lot more as of late, and I was on a Kate honeymoon for a while, and that's really all there is to it. Just try to get battery effect as quickly as possible, put on some might and valor, and have fun. So I hope you got something from this video that may help you out in the future, whether it's with Black Widow or with another character, and thank you for watching.